All right, like, click, and subscribe, do all that. Is Netflix time. This joint is called The Last Paradiso, or The Last Paradise. In 1950s Italy, a passionate, free spirit dreams of love, justice, and a better way of life until a forbidden affair threatens everything, based on real events. It's an Italian movie drama that came out last year. It's an hour and 47 minutes long. I'm sorry, I'm so baffled by the last 10 minutes when I saw it, but I'm just gonna give it to you. I'm gonna try to do my best. And oh yeah, spoiler alert, definitely. Let's just get to it. So we start with this guy named Cuccio and this girl named Bianca. They just frolicking in the forest, just chilling. They sister over there hating, talking about, you know, we got to get back to work, we got to do stuff, whatever like that. I can't remember her sister's name, just bear with me. Then we see this lady named Lucia scolding her son. I guess eating random stuff he's not supposed to be eating. He goes back in with his grandma to help make bread. Then we get to the scene with this guy named Don Chia. And Bianca and her sister are heading back to this group. So now the thing is, the Don Chia is actually the father of these two girls. Don Chia is having all these people work while he just stands by and does nothing. So apparently they've been working on olive trees and growing fresh fruit for like a year there. So that's pretty much the story behind that. Everybody eating their sandwiches and chilling. This guy, I can't remember his name too, but he is Don Chio's right-hand man. So Don Chia tells this one girl that she's been too stressed out, you know what I'm saying, go have a rest in the barn and stuff like that and relax. Does he really have good intentions in his heart, or is he just your typical scoundrel? Meanwhile, Chichio's heading back home walking a goat. And this girl pops up talking about, you ain't got time for me no more, but you got time for Don Chino's daughter? So apparently, Chichio be getting it popping out here in these streets. So as he's heading back to the house, he's talking to his son. That's right, that little boy is his son. Which means Lucia is his wife. And that's the grandma, who's obviously disgusted with Chichio. Grandma's always talking about how she's always loved this town. Chichio's talking about, man, I'm trying to get a new way of life. I'm trying to get up out of here. Meanwhile, back in the barn, we learn that Don Chio is not a savory character. Because when he tells that chick to go in the barn, he plans to have his way with her. That lousy piece of filth. The daughter was listening in, feeling disgusted, and then she just runs off. Chichio goes to talk to some friend, you know, talking about opposing the mayor because he just can't stand him. And then next we end up in a bar where the mayor's friend is dividing up wages for people. And this guy's heated because he feels like the mayor has shortchanged him, you know, working out in the fields for like a whole year and shit. So he gets some bullshit excuse about, you know, we all gotta pay taxes and stuff like that. But his fat ass does nothing and gets triple the salary. Like, really? So Chichio gives this all-inspiring speech and talks about he'll pay the wages for everybody else, but he really, you know, he really trying to get up out of there to go to America or something like that. So yeah. So he's looking like, hey man, you gonna do what you do? Hey, do it, go ahead, have fun. And then they toast celebration and all that. Now he goes back and talks to his father and asks him about moving and all that stuff, and he never thought about considering moving or whatever. And his father's a key element to the story, but I'll explain that later. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, the family always asks him about his brother Antonio, and that's the reason he gets these ideas about leaving and going to America, whatever like that, because his brother had ended up moving out to France. So after that, Chichio goes to a random location to chill out with Belair, the mayor's daughter, by the way. Yeah, Belair is the mayor's daughter, yeah. I'm over here stuttering on my words. I'm just still baffled at the ending of this movie, but we'll get to it. He finds this old record player. That's a good looking record player for the 1950s. Chichio wants Belair to leave with him to America. They get it on and cracking. Meanwhile, he's pissed off at the events that occurred last night because Chichio is leading a rebellion against Don Chio and his crew, who he was actually talking to right there, but you know, he's like, calm down, I'll take care of all this. He goes to talk to his best friend. His best friend's telling him like, man, yo, stop messing with Bianca. That shit ain't good for you, dog. Which he's absolutely right. It's not good for him. Which he ignores that advice, and then he's got all his friends he's talking to out there. Later that night, Don Chio actually invites Chichio to his house. There's some heavy tension in their conversation, and you can tell that eventually some shit gonna jump off. Later at night, Don Chino's friend sees somebody on the road, thinking he needs help, but nah, it's the same guy that he dicked over in the bar or whatever like that. No, he's just basically come there to beat the shit out of him. They fuck him up something terrible too. And you see the money just laying there. He's like, man, it ain't even about the money. It's about the principle of the whole thing. They ain't tolerating disrespect in those streets. Then obviously he goes to tell the police like a little bitch. Tekashi 6ix9ine having ass. Later on that night, Chichio comes back and sneaks into Belair's room and shit. And she's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, really? Like, nah, just meet me in the barn. Come on, let's get it. So they sneak off into the barn and get it popping. Giving her the business. Can't show it on YouTube. Anyway, she tells her sister about the escapade, how they were in the barn or whatever like that. But the problem was she woke up before Chichio did and they're about to go get some hay. And she didn't tell him that like, oh, it's time for you to go. Like, you're still here in the morning. So her and her brother in there digging for hay or whatever like that. And they think they heard a fox or something like that. So she gets him off the trail and tells him to go fetch some fruit or something like that. And then she's able to sneak his goofy ass about out of there. It's just hilarious. Obviously, Don Cheadle heard about the beef and all that stuff that happened to his man, so he's like, look, I'm gonna just give you some money because we don't want war, we want peace. There's a reason he's doing that, though. Meanwhile, in the church, Chichio meets up with his wife, Lucia, whatever like that, and basically tells each other, like, you know, we have two different ways of thinking about things. She wants to stay there, he wants to leave. Like, she's past the fact that he cheats on her or whatever like that. She just doesn't want to see anything happen to him. She still cares about him, whether it's for her sake or for her son or, you know, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Then he goes back to frolicking with Belair, and then he tells her, like, we're leaving in 2 days. Later on, the Dawn calls in both of his daughters. You can tell by the look at their faces something's up. Dawn's like, yo, do I look stupid? Belair, I know you're smashing Chichio. He calls his sister a liar for covering it up, and he calls her a whore for smashing him. And then she strips down and brings up all the co-workers that he'd enforced himself upon over the years. So yeah, he's definitely a hypocrite. And why did she strip down? Was she implying that... Ugh. Late at night, Chichio has a moment with Lucia and his son. It's like he's kissing them goodbye though. Just contemplating everything he's about to do. And it feels like somebody getting up out of here. Next day, Chichio wants to drop this letter off to Don Chino. Don Chino starts telling him his story about the dirt and the soil. And then right out the blue, whacks Chichio with a fucking shovel like goddamn. Chichio's dead as shit. And not only does he kill him, but just to send a message, he cuts his dick off too. Sleeping with a whole bunch of chicks and the mayor's daughter, he got. I mean, when you add into the account the fact that he was rebelling against the mayor too, so it was like a lot of different things came into play, but goddamn. They drop him off back at the square and the wife sees him. Everybody's in shock. It's just crazy. And yeah, that's him, hanging off a donkey. Sister crying, Belair spazzing the fuck out on her father. So our star just died, and we're like halfway into the movie. How they gonna continue this shit? So we cut to Chichio's brother Antonio, who was in the United States. He's actually working as a dismount or construction worker or whatever, and he gets the news from his boss. So he meets up with his girlfriend, who just happens to be the boss's daughter, and he tells her he's got to make a trip back home, you know what I'm saying, for Antonio's funeral and all that. I mean, for Chichio's funeral. Meanwhile, the police go around arresting up the dudes that beat up Don Chino's right-hand man. They getting all them niggas. Grandma and Antonio are grieving over Chichio's casket, and so is everybody else. And that's the face of a man like he got some dangerous shit on his mind. Meanwhile, Bianca's like, fuck that, I'm going to the funeral, and y'all ain't gonna stop me, especially you, nigga. At the funerals, everybody's grieving. And to my surprise, the women that he loved were actually the ones that were carrying the casket. With the exception of Bianca, because she came after the service. So clearly he was loved throughout the city. He asked the cops for information, but they ain't telling him shit. Under the payroll, Don Chito, maybe? He talks to Don Chito's friend. I mean, Chichio's friend, my bad. He goes back and talks to his dad. His dad tells him, like, man, just do yourself a favor. Just don't come back. And he basically tells him, like, this hellhole is not worth staying here. I feel like his dad was hiding something from him, but I'm not sure what. Got that look on his face like, yeah, he's ready to go to Don Chito's house now. And he tells him to get off his porch before he be the next one missing. That's the face of a man that's like, you know what? All right, I got your ass. So he's getting on the bus to go back to France. What? That's it? No vengeance? Then he starts seeing visions of his brother on the bus. And then we got the next day, Don Chino checking on his horses and whatnot. But out the blue, he gets attacked out of nowhere. And he's laid out. Done deal, dead. They didn't show the attacker's face, but we all know who it is. Who got that done deal, getting the vengeance. And then his punk ass comes out of nowhere and he gets got too. And then he left that shirt stay on the street. Symbolism, nigga. Letting everybody know they got Dud Dale dead. Justice served. But then it also leaves Blair and his sister on their own. They go to the baker ain't trying to give him nothing. The house gets vandalized. They're not accepted at the church anymore. Just complete disownment. Only person she got to turn to was this sleazeball who's living hella comfortably. But of course, obviously, he wants her to do favors and shit. Of course, she ain't with it and gets up out of there. She runs off to the forest thinking that she saw Chichio. Then she starts having a flashback to the first time they met. So thinking she got bit by a snake and she thought it was poisonous at the time. Chichio tells her he's going to suck the poison out, but she's got to close her eyes. And then he just kisses her. It's like, really? Then he tells her the snake that bit her was a 4-line snake. It was never poisonous or anything like that. Meanwhile, Antonio's back home with his girl, and she's basically telling him that they just rented out a 2-story apartment or something like that. But considering everything that went down, he has other things on his mind. And she's just being concerned, making sure he's okay, and of course he's just like, everything's fine. The boss is concerned about him too, because an incident happened at work, but everything's all fine. He reassures him that, and then he's like, yo, just make sure you look after my daughter and all that good stuff. He writes a letter, which we find out later on is meant for his girl. Actually wrote 2 letters, one to his girl and one to Belair. The first letter he wrote left his girl crying. And why is that? Because somewhere in that letter has something to do with him moving back to his hometown. So now he's back home and he goes to visit Belair and his sister. But he looks over to the right and sees this picture. So I'm thinking to myself, who was this lady to him? So when Bianca shows up, he's gone. And he walked off to the fields to meet his dad again. Are you ready for this? Because I'm not. Anyway, here we go. The picture that Lady Antonio saw was actually his dad's wife. And Bianca's sister is actually his daughter. So Chichio, your brother, was sleeping with your stepsister. What in all of the And he tells her the real reason how his mom died. She basically committed suicide. She couldn't handle all the stuff that was happening. I swear, I'm not even ready to deal with this scene coming up. So Bianca later on meets Antonio in the mid-square, and he shaved his facial hair off to look just like his brother Ciccio, and he asks her to marry him. Wait a minute, what the fuck, like, this is not what anybody meant by keeping it all in the family. So his father gives him his blessing to marry his stepdaughter, and everybody's just cool with this shit? So Ciccio had a wife, Lucia, and a son. He was messing with a bunch of girls, but he was messing with Belair, who happens to be his stepsister. Belair's sister just happens to be Antonio's father's daughter. This shit is crazy. The Last Paradise on Netflix, check it out. Like, click, subscribe, do all that. It's your boy, Mr. Big. Who got them slogan?